Creating templates in the tracking module. Creating a letter. Before schools can send out documents to parents regarding attendance, these will need to be defined and created in School Workspace. Common documents that the school could create are letters or certificates to inform parents of excellent attendance. Letters to inform the parents of poor punctuality. Letters informing the parents of a high number of unauthorized absences. Or letters informing the parents that the percentage attendance is a cause for concern and is having a detrimental effect on the child's attainment at school. This video will look at how to create the above letters or certificates. There are two parts to creating these. The first part is to define the criteria, and the second part is to build the template. Let's look at how to create a new template. To create a new template, navigate to the Attendance Tracking module, Tracking Templates, and select Add. Once selected, there are several fields that will need to be populated. Give the template a name. This name will be used when sending the letter out to the parent. For this example, we will create letter 2. This letter will follow the first letter which has already been sent. Select the font to be used within the body of the letter. We will select Tahoma. Select the style. There are 3 types available: letter, certificate, or a word mail merge. For this example, we will be creating a letter, therefore the category will also be a letter. It is possible for schools to send out letters or certificate based on different dates. Select the most applicable option for the letter the school needs to create. For this example, we will select from the start of the academic year to now. Next, we will look at the criteria that will be used when these documents will be generated. There are 3 types of attendance criteria available. They can be based on a percentage attendance, number of lates, and the number of unauthorized absences. Select the most appropriate criteria applicable to the document that you are creating. For this example, we will select equals to or less than the cause for concern, which is 85%. If none of the above criteria are applicable, it's possible to select all students or selected students. With this option selected, when the letter is generated, the school will be able to select the specific students that should receive the letter or certificates. It will not be based on any criteria. Once the criteria has been selected, the school can add a not if statement. An example of this is, if a student had poor attendance, for example 65%, then the student will receive the letter 1 from the school. However, when it comes to generating the second letter, their attendance has improved but the percentage is still below the threshold of 84%. By using this condition, but if not, attendance equals 100% in the last 28 days, this student will not receive a letter. Select if this letter can only be sent to a student once per academic year or the letter can be sent multiple times. The school may wish to send a generic attendance letter to the whole school at the start of the year to outline the attendance policy. By sending this letter from the module, the school can assign an icon to this letter, therefore parents cannot say they are not aware of the policy. As we are creating letter 2, we will indicate that this letter will follow letter 1. If the letter being created doesn't need to follow anything, this can be left blank. Assign an icon to the letter template. This will be the icon that appears on the attendance tracking grid. We will select the red letter, with the number 2 in it. Once selected, select Save. Once saved, the school will be able to create the template for either the letter, certificate, or the word mail merge document. For this example, we will create the template for the letter. How to create the template. To create the template, navigate to the Template tab and select Add Report Template item, then Letter. Once selected, a basic letter template will be created. This will include the following data items: school logo, salutation, address, date, regarding. If the school logo doesn't show, navigate to School Settings, then Edit School Logo. Then upload the school's logo. This letter can be amended to meet the school's requirements. There are mail merge tokens available that can be included within the letter. These are either data fields, student fields, such as name, surname, registration group, attendance data fields such as attendance from, attendance to, attendance grid. The text editor box contains several tools to personalize the letter. Further information about the text editor can be found in the user manual. We will copy and paste a letter that has been previously used by the school in the past. We will use this letter, then add some of the available mail merge tags to personalize the letter. It's possible to add the ability for parents to provide a comment or feedback on the letter they've received. To add this, navigate to Add Template Report item and select Parental Responses and Signature. Once added, schools can edit the item and add any text that they require. It's possible for schools to add a data field which allows a staff member to add a response. This is beneficial. Especially when a parent adds a comment to the letter, school staff can add a response of their own to this comment. Adding a reply here will save schools having to communicate with the parents via email or telephone. This will allow for the communications to be done in one place. Once the school is happy with this template will appear in the tracking template table. The name of the template will show. Select this if there is a need to amend any details. The other information that will show are the category, criteria, and which document it will follow. To help the schools manage these templates, it's possible to view when the template was last updated. How to generate the letter. To generate the letter, navigate to the Attendance Tracking module, Attendance Tracking tab, then Tracking Templates. Select Generate. A pop-up box will display all available templates. For this example, we will now generate Letter 2, which will be sent to students who have received Letter 1, however, their attendance is still below the cause for concern percentage, which is 84%. Understanding how the generating process works. If we look at the process, back in December, the school generated Letter 1. This identified that there were 17 students that had attendance under 84%. Of those students, none had 100% attendance during the 28 days leading up to the selected date, i.e. didn't have full attendance for the month of December. These letters were emailed to the parents. The schools can check the criteria of the generated letter by selecting the letter and looking in the Details tab. The school's policy states that this process should be repeated in April to see which students needs to receive Letter 1 or Letter 2. So, in April, the school will go through the process to generate Letter 1 and Letter 2 again from the Attendance Tracking module. Firstly, the school will generate Letter 1 again. This will interrogate the data to see if there are any students since the start of the academic year with attendance below the 84% threshold. Any students that have already received Letter 1 in December will not appear in this list. Next, the school will generate Letter 2. This will look if there are any students whose attendance is below 84%, their attendance has not been 100% in the last 28 days and they have already received Letter 1. If any students meet these criteria, then they will appear in the list. When this is generated, one student met these criteria. In accordance to the school's policy, the next time the school will track attendance will be in July, where the school will generate Letter 1, Letter 2, and finally Letter 3.